Okay, welcome to the North Forge FabLab Safety Program and VR Safety Training Experience Workshop. Hello, I'm Marnie Stapley. I'm the Vice President of North Forge Technology Exchange. And before getting into the safety program and the VR safety training experience, I'll provide you with a bit of background on who we are at North Forge. We're an innovation-based economic development agency, and we are the Government of Manitoba's strategic partner for innovation. North Forge provides entrepreneurs with award-winning mentors, subject matter experts, in a 4-stage startup program. North Forge operates out of 27,000 square feet across Innovation Drive and Innovation Alley in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. We've worked with over 100 companies that have raised over $180 million in capital and created hundreds of jobs. The North Forge Founders Program has 3 streams, one for technology founders and one for women in innovation. The Advanced Manufacturing Lab offers guidance on product development, experience, support from relevant industry networks, prototyping and testing opportunities. It's housed within 12,000 square feet. The North Forge Fabrication Lab is North America's largest publicly accessible fabrication lab where business founders will have all the equipment that they need at their fingertips. We have a North Forge International Startup Program that aims to support world-class technology startups as they build, settle, and accelerate their business in Manitoba. And it's designed to help eligible international companies hit the ground running when they enter the North American market. So interested parties with an aggressively growing customer base and they're realizing revenue in their home country can apply to our program off of our website at northforge.ca. The North Forge Angel Network. It's a network of accredited and non-accredited individuals who wish to invest and provide mentorship to founders who are part of the North Forge program. The North Forge Angel Network was created in collaboration with NACO, which is the National Angel Capital Organization in Canada, and it's to help founders launch companies with access to capital. Our goal is to help North Forge founders complete their first closings by providing a supportive community, tactical advice, and financial resources. We also run a Manitoba high school program, and it's a hands-on learning environment with real-world expertise and feedback. North Forge provides educational programming once a week to students from September to June for grades 10 to 12, and the internships take place at the North Forge FabLab. We have an Indigenous Entrepreneur Scholarship Program where the entrepreneurs have the opportunity to start a business, learn how to use the equipment, and mentoring at the FabLab. The Indigenous Student Mentorship Program focuses, or the focus in the program is to engage young people in the community to develop development work by introducing them to critical initiatives within their community, while at the same time teaching them how to find problems in their community through an entrepreneurship process. At the Fabrication Lab, we supercharge innovation and economic growth. Our advanced manufacturing and equipment provide new innovative technologies into our capabilities to support current and future startup businesses' needs and foster an entrepreneurial environment conducive to innovation, growth, and competitiveness. Our FabLab is open 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So this allows entrepreneurs to work in the lab at night and weekends after their full-time job ends. The FabLab is a training-focused facility where ideas are transformed into something tangible. It allows for experimentation and reiteration of designs and prototypes and lowers the cost of prototyping. We have members using the lab as an extension of their manufacturing facility by makers and new founders in the AmLab program as they create new products. We have rooms dedicated to painting and staining, metalworking, 3D printing, laser cutting, CNC, woodworking, IoT innovation lab, and a craft room. Our recent equipment purchases were a water jet cutting table and a metal lathe and a Form 3 additive manufacturing printer. These were all purchased to increase capabilities and competitiveness of our startups. As the manufacturing sector partner for SafeWork Manitoba, MadeSafe works with members to assess their readiness, provide support, and help companies achieve certification. Their process is modeled on internationally recognized best practices and has demonstrated positive outcomes for individual companies and the industry overall. Certified manufacturers have safer and healthier workplaces, better control of workplace hazards, fewer injuries and illnesses, more engaged and productive employees, as well as a significant rebate on their workers' compensation board premiums. We became SafeWork certified by MadeSafe in June of 2019. Certification is a way to recognize an organization for meeting a standard of safety and health performance in the workplace. This includes practices that are part of the comprehensive safety and health management system and also includes quality assurance as well as processes to ensure continuous improvement. It is important for the North Forge Fabrication Lab to be SafeWork certified so businesses and universities and colleges can all have the peace of mind knowing that when they're sending their employees and students, they're sending them to a safe environment. It's also important for all members to feel safe and have access to the information and resources to be safe. One member described this certification as now legitimizing their prototypes that are made out of the fabrication lab. This is about half of our safety program, and I'm showing you this to see how robust our safety program is. And this is the other half. A few learnings for me during this safety process is that if you cannot show evidence, it didn't happen. So you can't tell a safety official that you have a policy in place without showing it and showing where it is. We place a high degree of emphasis on culture within our community and having our safety program at the fabrication lab be member and community driven. North Forge has an active and driven volunteer safety committee and a volunteer member base to drive the safety program forward. The program is supported by management, but everyone takes ownership in the program. The safety program makes decision-making and actions less stressful because we know what to do and how to do it. The hardest part of the commitment to certification was that we were not sure how to get started. At the beginning, the process seemed very daunting. My advice on this now, looking back, is to contact your local safety organization at the beginning and keep in touch with them throughout the entire process. They were and continue to be very supportive with such a huge amount of expertise. We both had the same end goals and they wanted us to succeed. We were fortunate to be successful for funding from Workers' Compensation Board from a 2019 Research and Workplace Innovation Program application. We worked closely throughout 2020 with Bitspace Development, MadeSafe, and SafeWork Manitoba. The project developed a course delivery method and new immersive innovative methods for safety training using virtual reality technology. It was customized for North Forge Fabrication Lab, aligning with our Fabrication Lab health and safety program, providing a shop floor solution to improving workplace health and safety. This VR safety experience will augment our hands-on equipment training and provide for a greater training experience. Working with Bitspace Development was an obvious choice for the VR safety training project as our long-standing partner. Bitspace Development is an interactive digital media studio that specializes in creating innovative learning experiences for the classroom and workplace. They work with educators and industry professionals from around the world to develop effective solutions for education and training using cutting-edge digital media technologies. Dan Blair is the founder and CEO. I have worked with Dan for several years and know him as very passionate about what he does and works with businesses to solve problems in new ways that you may not have thought of as possible. And now I will pass it over to Dan.
Great, thanks. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so Bitspace was happy to work with North Forge for this project because it really helped us utilize virtual reality in an exciting new way in our community to bring people into hazardous environments and allow them to learn without actually being put in danger in front of the actual equipment. So this project was both very successful, but also very fun to work on. Go to the next slide. So I'm Dan, like Marnie said. I founded Bitspace in 2015, completely by accident. And we are focused entirely on changing the way that people and industries face challenges and solve problems. So I have a special interest in spatial computing, immersive technologies, but also in AI technologies and Internet of Things to help create a connected and immersive world to change the way that we learn. So Bitspace is located here in Winnipeg, and we are a IDM company, which is an interactive digital media. And we focus all of our efforts out of Winnipeg to solve problems for people both here and abroad. We have 2 locations here in the city. So we have our warehouse facility on the edge of the city where we're developing our IoT and computer vision applications. And we have our location in downtown Winnipeg in the Exchange District, just a few blocks away from North Forge's Fabrication Lab, where we have our art and development teams as well as our education teams housed. Immersive Technologies, for people that may be watching this and don't know, is largely summarized with the term extended reality, or XR, which includes everything from virtual reality to augmented reality. And the difference between those is in virtual reality, we wipe away the world in which you are in. And in augmented reality, we're going to place digital assets in the world with you. This project was largely focused around virtual reality. We chose VR as the learning method for this project for a number of reasons, largely because it is an effective learning tool. So 83% of people retain more after learning in VR, simply because of their ability to repeat the tasks, to be able to access spaces that they normally wouldn't be able to. In our own surveys using focus groups with other deployments as well as this one, we found that about 93% of participants enjoy using and learning this way. So using the technology for this purpose and learning through virtual reality. And we need to update this line, but we've done quite a few deployments at this point. So we are working with companies all across Canada and the US to deploy these kind of solutions. What does Bitspace and VR Safety bring to the table? So VR Safety is an online content management system for creating and deploying your learning content. It allows for us to add interactive hotspots, upload our 360-degree photos and videos, manage the content and deploy it to your users. Everything is located in the cloud, so you don't have to worry about on-site storage, although we can deploy to on-site VR headsets. And at this point, we support all modern virtual reality devices, everything from the Picos to Oculus to the Vives, basically anything that you can buy that is current, we're generally supporting. All of the content in VR Safety is shot using 360-degree photos and video technology. This is shot with a number of different cameras, but this allows for us to capture the physical location and immerse the users within that space. So if you are going onto a job site or going into a FabLab or going into a hospital, we take our specialized cameras, take photos or videos, and place users there in VR. It allows for us to create orientations and capture facilities in a cheaper and very effective way than using a 3D scanning or reconstruction of the space, which is costly and time consuming. This is an example of a 360 photo that I like to throw up there. At this point, a lot of people are familiar with what 360 technology is. However, I still find that a lot of people aren't quite familiar. So this is a really fun example of accessing a space you're normally not allowed to visit. This is a room at the Manitoba Legislative Building called the Blue Room, which is generally reserved for when we have high-ranking government officials or royalty visiting our city, and the general public isn't allowed to visit. With this photo, you can go into VR Safety and visit this room as if you've been there, and that is generally quite exclusive in real life. So interactive hotspots are really the key to VR Safety and was a big part of building the North Forge experience. Hotspots are points of interest that we place in the photos and videos to draw the attention of the users. They can be all kinds of things. So we can embed photos, videos, or links, as well as audio. We can move you from a space to another space, or even just put your progress as you work your way through a course. They are easily positioned using our web editor, so you don't have to know any code. You can just drag and drop the hotspots where you want them to be. And the content can be updated over time. So 2 years down the road, if North Forge wants to update their wood room tour, we can simply upload new photos and alter the hotspots and deploy to our headsets. This is an example of some interactive hotspots from our 3D printer tour. All of the hotspots here can be opened up by the user, whether they're on the web or in VR, to get more information about 3D printers, resin safety, and chemicals, as well as the MSDS information for those materials all from inside of VR, and then transition to the next phase. Everything on VR safety and within the Northforge deployment is tracked for user progress, and we have the ability to securely share the tours with members. So what that allows us to do is create user roles, so that way, as a new member is joining Northforge, they're able to be assigned this training, given the link to take the training and log in with their account, and then we're able to track that they actually completed that training. It allows for us to invite users to take training and track the progress of the training if they're going to start using a new piece of machinery. And we have a proof of completeness once they've gone through the entire orientation. So this is just an example of some of the backend UI where we can see a collection of different tours, as well as team members off to the side. We're able to view statistics on each of the tours deployed at the top. So we've got our laser room, resin 3D printer, CNC room, etc. From there, we'd be able to view the course profile or edit the course, as well as view the statistics, which would show us which users have completed and the average grades and times to complete those courses. This is just another view showing a more zoomed in look on one of our courses. So the resin 3D printer course, allowing us to see how many people have been invited, how many are still in progress, completed, if anybody's failed, and what the average grade is. This is pre-launch, so at this point, taking the screenshot, we hadn't actually ran our users through the training yet, but now if we were to go through there, we could see progress on that. We're also able to publish or quickly unpublish a course if, say, Northforge was to move spaces or change a piece of machinery or temporarily stop training on a piece of equipment. We can quickly unpublish a course from here as well. So we built a bit of a process to make these kind of things successful, simply because when we get a lot of partners at the table, a lot of stakeholders, it is really important that as a group, when we're creating the XR experience, that we understand what we're actually trying to create. So in our experience being involved in a number of RWIP programs through WCB Manitoba, we found that over the years that this process worked, and Marnie may back me up on this or may not, but I believe it worked well for this project as well. So we can go to the next slide. So for this process, we've kind of broken it into a few different pieces, and I promise it's not a pyramid scheme. But starting from the bottom, we have a strong foundation. That's the framework that we build off of. So everything on VR safety has a web-based deployment. We're able to rapidly iterate. We have backups. We know that the devices are all connected through secure APIs, and that the ability to manage users is all persistent and across devices. On top of that, we have interaction. So in order to interact with the systems, we need a really captivating way for users to be able to consume that content. In this situation, we're using VR and the ability for users to open up hotspots, look around, and move within the experience. And then all of that means nothing without top quality content. So that content is really important, because without the content driven by our working groups, the system essentially does nothing. So at the very top is the content that is driven by the educators and trainers that are ultimately using the system. So at the very beginning of the process, between Northforge, Bitspace, MadeSafe, RWIP, and our other stakeholders, we started our ideation and design phases. This involved us looking at the physical space. So actually visiting the space, which was a little bit of a logistical challenge, because this project started right during the pandemic. That also required for us to make a catalog of hazards or points of interest in the space that we were going to want to highlight. The formation of a working group. So we had our advisory committee, but who are going to be the people that are going to work with us to develop the content? And you'll hear from one of those people later in the project or in this presentation. And then ultimately planning the content, which is the production of our XR content form and our shot list. So the XR content form is an interactive tool that is built through our website, and it allows for us to understand the physical space, the restrictions, and the high-level learning objectives and learning outcomes that are present in our current courses. So if we want to teach people about the CNC room, what are the key takeaways for that room? What do we need to be focusing on as a group? So before we write any code, before we take any pictures, before we deploy anything at all, we want to understand as a group what those takeaways are. So the content builder tool, which is available on our website, and there's a link right here, can be filled out by anyone if they're just looking to start an XR project. So once the content form has been filled out, we understand the space and what we're trying to capture. We optimistically set our very first shoot date, which is definitely going to be the only shoot during this entire project. We will go on site with our photographers, walk through, take the same orientation that any other contractor would entering that space. And then we go into content editing, review, and ultimately reshoot content when we learn that we want to shoot more stuff later. Because spaces are dynamic and they change. After we have all of that content, this is where the working group starts to have a lot of fun. And this is where we start actually uploading that content into VR Safety. So taking that content that we shot and matching it up with the shoot list. The content builder form and VR Safety at this point are technically interchangeable with other tools from a process perspective. For our deployment to make this successful, of course, we're using our content form, but if there are other forms that have been created or built by your organization, it is not necessary to use our specific tools at this point. But the actual uploading of the content needs to match at this point the plans that were put in place by the working group to make sure that the content being designed and implemented in these tools is ultimately going to teach the users what we want them to learn. After everything has been inserted, we want to make sure that all the hotspots are inserted, verified, and reviewed by the team as well as your advisory committee. Once we have our content in the system, we start to pilot it. So for VR Safety, we started a fairly lengthy pilot phase. We ran it all throughout the good chunk of the winter, through winter 2020 and into the beginning of 2021, to make sure that we had enough people to go through and give us feedback. But this is where it's important to have real users, especially real non-technical users, use the hardware, use the experience, and really adapt it into the training to understand, is the content complementary to the course that we're teaching them? Is it creating any barriers? Are we running into any issues with the content itself? Because this is when we want to start changing it as well, if needed. Once the pilot is complete, this is where we are now. So we've gone through our deployment phase. This is where everyone gets trained up on the deployment of the hardware, the sanitization and cleaning of the hardware, as well as how to actually upload content, deploy content, etc. So a big part of these projects for any FabLab when deploying this kind of technology is measuring the success of the deployment. Because it's one thing to deploy, it's another thing entirely to understand if we are making something that's ultimately going to be useful. So for this, we set 3 different performance metrics. We want to know about engagement, we want to know about retention, and we want to know about performance. So engagement is how are users interacting with our software, and are people enjoying the experiences? Are users able to complete all of the tasks? Retention is, are people retaining the information that they received? Are we able to quiz the users after the fact as part of the training to know that the information is staying in their heads? And then from a performance perspective, are the users working faster, more accurately after completing the training? So if you were measuring this beforehand with your training, has it ultimately improved with the adaptation of the VR content after the fact? So the actual North Forge Fabrication Lab VR safety pilot was driven by experts. And at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Doug, who has actually, since this project, become our operations manager for our warehouse here at Bitspace. But throughout the project was the one of our working group members on this VR safety deployment.
Hi everyone, my name is Doug Campbell. I am production manager at Bitspace Development, and I'll take a moment to share a little with you about my experience working on the VR safety project. So I was introduced to the VR safety experience one day when Marnie invited me into her office and mentioned that we have this cool new project and you should take part in it. I didn't really know much about it outside of the fact that it was based on workplace safety, so I agreed. I had no prior experience with virtual reality, nor have I ever used a virtual reality headset, but being in the construction industry at the time, I did have a very good understanding of job site safety. So North Forge had a lot of really good candidates, and I wondered why I was selected for the project, but it occurred to me over time that I'm a bit of a subject matter expert in most of the critical areas of the project. For starters, I'm a red sealed carpenter, so that covers many aspects of proper machine use, job site safety, and tool use, like, for example, how a saw stop works, which is something that we chose to cover in detail in the presentation. Prior to that profession, over like a decade ago, I used to be the Microsoft field rep for Manitoba for a short time. Other qualifications, I also hold a seat on the North Forge Member Council, which gives me a lot of insight into the inner workings of how North Forge works outside of regular member usage. And I'm also the trainer for the box style carpentry room at North Forge. So when we started designing the presentations, the most difficult guideline to follow was to create a safety-only presentation that is not an instructional on how to use the equipment. WCB was funding the project, and it's not supposed to teach you how to use the equipment. It's supposed to teach you how to be safe about using the equipment. So this was very difficult because it's easy to blur the lines between how to operate the equipment versus strictly providing safety-related instruction. So that was the first task that we had to overcome. After that, tasks were divvied up based on knowledge and experience, even though there was a lot of research that went into every topic. We had to make sure the content was both good and accurate. Early on, it was established that we had some extra time and we had some extra budget, so the 3D printer room was added as a bonus mini topic as well. We needed to keep it small, so we chose to focus strictly on resin safety because at the time, the market was just getting saturated with these inexpensive DLP resin printers, and it was starting to become a big online topic. So this is nothing new for North Forge because as innovators, we have been using resin-based printers for years. Over time, we met for a few weeks and we decided on what the content would consist of. We'd write it down and then we'd submit our idea, all of our ideas to the board for revision. And then we would use their feedback to create the product. I didn't even see what the VR platform would look like until we were well into developing the content for it. But once the VR safety builder was released to us, I found it surprisingly intuitive. It's intuitive enough so that virtually anybody can use it easily. Once the project started taking shape, we began taking member feedback and using it to make the experience better. This was a key part of improving the VR safety experience because the feedback we received was being used to continuously improve the content. In addition to that, two new features are always being added to the back end. Bitspace is very, very good at taking feedback and making the tool or implementing it to the tool itself to make improvements on the system. So the ability to make continuous updates is very, very useful aspect. It means projects don't need to come with a definitive end date. They never expire. Once a presentation is deployed, we can continue to add, we can continue to refine the experience for as long as we like. So all in all, I expect that the VR safety experience will augment hands-on training by helping members to become familiar with room hazards and how to mitigate them before physically stepping into the room for hands-on training. It gives everybody the chance to familiarize themselves with the room, its layout, its contents, and it highlights the important sections of the lab. I believe that experience will ultimately reduce and make the FabLab a safer experience overall for everybody. With that, I'll pass it back to Dan.
during this project that I actually ended up picking up my own DLP printer as well. Marnie, we can go back one slide to the areas of focus. So as Doug was saying, throughout this project, we focus on a lot of different areas. And this was really focused around a few different key spaces, which was general orientation. We wanted to make sure that we captured the space that everyone would go through regardless. That was in two different reasons. One, to change the way that we handled open tours for everyone, because during the pandemic, we couldn't easily have people come down to check out the space, but also as just a general orientation to safety in the space. The other was high risk areas like the wood shop, the metal shop, and the laser room, where the entire room was the focus. And then we did a couple more specific training components as well, which was the 3-axis CNC and the resin 3D printers. So we're going to be using it in a few different ways. We do have VR headsets deployed at the FabLab, but the training can also be taken by a computer or a smartphone or a tablet. Everything is both web driven and VR driven. So for accessibility, for people that can't put on a headset, we are able to load up the courses on iPads that are also deployed to the lobby, as well as just the user's phone or any computer before they even visit the space. The headset that we've deployed physically in the location is the Pico G2 4K-S, which is a high quality 3 degrees of freedom headset that we've secured to the location. These are standalone, so there's no computer needed to power these. And they are connected to the Wi-Fi at the FabLab, which allows for us to deploy new content directly to them. They do have a facial interface that's easy to sanitize and clean, and we're able to put it in the UV cleaning station through CleanBox. So the pilot is actually done. So we've deployed since. All 6 experiences have completed the pilot, and users gave us quite a lot of feedback. We didn't get any objections to using VR technology in this way. We didn't have any significant technical challenges with the platform to date, and we've generally had a positive reception from the community. We did get a lot of really great feedback from members at North Forge during development and since deployment, but at this point, we've had generally a pretty positive reception to the technology. And in a few areas to note, the pilot was started before the pandemic had spread to North America. When Marnie and I started writing this application in 2019, we had no idea that during this project, we would be having to do adapting to a completely changed world. So we had to adapt the meetings with our working group and our advisory committees to socially distanced digital meetings, just like everyone else in the world. But we also had to consider a process for sanitizing the headsets more thoroughly than initially anticipated when we first put in for this project. What we would have done before the pandemic, which would have been wipe the headsets down with some sort of antibacterial wipe between users, became a whole process using UV sanitization to kill any viruses, combined with wipes that would also help with that. But we had to take this all into consideration very early because it all happened right when we got into planning phase. So we were lucky with the timing on this project because our planning phase did align with the world changing, but it was definitely not something that we anticipated when we were first starting the project. And this is just a repeat slide, so we can jump right past it. So yeah, this is the FabLab, and go ahead to the next slide. You have the ability to try it out, so feel free to pause here. There is a link and a QR code to load up one of the experiences on VR safety. This is a public link to one of the tours from this particular deployment. So we would love to hear what you think of it. So feel free to contact us at Northforge and at Bitspace and give us your feedback. And we'll take it to questions, which I think are going to be really short.
Yeah, probably no questions. So let's just go to our last slide. Thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. And if you have any further questions, feel free to contact us directly at easy to remember, info@northforge.ca and info@vrsafety.com. Follow us on Twitter, and our websites are listed there as well. So thank you. And thank you, Dan and Doug. And I will stop sharing the presentation now.
There, we did it.